Yeah. Holy smokes, I'm no joke out the bullpen. Bringing nothing but heat, leave you hanging like clothespins. He's a beast when he goes in, ice cold frozen. The first round draft pick, number one chosen. Drop bombs, explosion, self-promotion. And I keep shit moving like a flanker in motion. I'm the number one spokesman, is my devotion. That I'm dedicated to the rhyme is my own notion. Brown water's the potion, it put hair on your chest. Or you could put one in the air and it'll put you to rest. Sweet dreams, I'm about to fade. I got my mind on my money and I'm dreaming about getting this all paid. Mr. Go-Getter, Mr. Assertive, Mr. Initiative, Mr. Results, man, I'm all about my business, kid. Damn.
What's going on, everybody, on this beautiful Sunday morning, week 15 of the NFL season, and we are here live here in the Maryland studio for myself, Oddfellow, hanging out in New York of all New Yorks. This is Circa Millions, the show, NFL picks. Of course, Shark will not be with us today, but guess what? He is with us in spirit, and he's with us. He's brought the energy and given it to us, and it is me. It is the Oddfellow. Oddfellow, how you doing this beautiful Sunday morning?
All I see is winners. It's like the shades on, shades off, shades on. Doesn't matter. Week 15. Can't believe it's really week 15. It's a little depressing for all you fantasy football gurus out there. You might be in the playoffs. Hopefully you didn't make the same mistake I did and start the Los Angeles Chargers defense, because I'm boned. Let's get to the picks, because I need to forget about fantasy and focus on the sides and the totals, baby.
And as I'm looking at the chat, listen, I see all you guys coming in here, and I'm also seeing, now I see the X people. They must have made a fix on StreamYard. So if you're in the chat, whether you're on Twitter, whether you're on YouTube, please come join us along and share your plays. And of course, Sam says it best. You got to hit the like button every time you watch this show. That is how you support the boys here. But let's get into the first play on the board here. We're going to be taking a little trip to Cleveland, Ohio, where this matchup here, non-conference matchup for that matter, we have the Chicago Bears going against the Cleveland Browns. 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This game does kick off. The line right now sitting at -2.5, -3. I'll start with you, Oddsfellow. What are your thoughts on the Bears versus the Browns?
I love to start with a little head-to-head. Let's spice it up, because I think there's plenty of alignment the rest of the show. But I think it's just Chicago's been a different beast lately, and I'm going to buy that spot. I'm going to buy that spot for them. After getting blown out by the Chargers, they've gone 3-2, and they very easily could have actually went 4-1 or 5-0. Two of those losses were 24-17 at New Orleans, and then a late loss where they let the Detroit Lions come back 31-26 before they walloped them a little bit longer. The one worry, the counter, which I know you're going to get into too, so I'll leave it for you to touch on, is the Cleveland defense at home. You know, they rank number 1 per DVOA overall anyway, and they've continued to be better at home this season, but they're still giving up chuck plays and points. And what I'm really targeting here is the actual turnaround on the Chicago defensive side of things. So I think this one, you know, it's a low number, so it could obviously get there. I think the chunk plays and the points are going to be there for Justin Fields and the offense as the Bears start to get right a little bit. But that defense, like I was saying, you know, since the Montez Sweat trade, kind of falling back into place here. They gave up 10 points to Minnesota, who ranks 20th on offense, and 13 points to Detroit, who ranks 7th on offense. You know, those teams rank better offensively than the Cleveland Browns do. And do we really expect the elite Joe Flacco magic to continue? Maybe, but hey, if I'm getting 3.5, the 2.5, which you have. So I think this could be a very sharp game where the number actually matters. And all three of us, because I think Shark posted at 3.5. I ended up getting stuck at a 3. The number is moving down to 2.5. I might end up pushing. You guys could cash on both sides of this. So a really interesting one, but 3.5, give me that, because I think it's going to be a close game, field goal game.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at this game, I look at it a little bit different. Of course, there's points, counterpoints on this one. Listen, the Shark is on +3.5. He's already posted that play. And of course, Oddsfellow on the +3. But I'm going to be taking Cleveland on this one. I got the -2.5. Let me tell you why. Listen, I know where Chicago's coming from. Back-to-back divisional wins, Minnesota and Detroit. Absolutely heating up. Detroit last week, 28-13, +69 net yards, +3 turnover ratio, deciding factor in that one. But Cleveland coming off a nice win themselves versus Jacksonville. 31-27, +96 net yards, +1 turnover ratio. And they were a little bit banged up, missing a couple key guys in this game, which they won't be missing in this one. Now you got to look at Cleveland. What they do, they play their best ball at home. They have a +8 point differential, +119 net yard average at home this season. They also hold their opponents to 192 yards per game at home this season, which is ranks number 1 in the NFL. They're 6-1 straight up in ATS at home. I can't deny those stats there. Chicago on the other side this season, not a good road team, right? They are minus 7 point differential, minus 44 net yard average, 2-5 straight up, 4-3 ATS. I'll give you the ATS record in here, but that 2-5 sticks out like a sore thumb, especially with a short line. What Cleveland does best, putting pressure on the quarterback, right? They have a 10.2% sack rate and a 13.4% sack rate at home. That ranks them first at getting to the QB. Then you got to look at the other side for Chicago. What do they do? Struggle blocking and pass protecting. A 9.5% sack rate given up to their opponents this season. They're also 1-2-1 ATS versus non-divisional opponents, non-conference opponents this season. That includes basically just playing the AFC West. 1-3 straight up in that regard. Cleveland on the other side, different story. 2-1-1 ATS versus the NFC. Of course, that was against the NFC West. But Cleveland has struggled with the QB issues off and on this season, so it's kind of killed their production. They get Joey Flacco in there in the last 2 weeks and actually improved that offense drastically. Yes, 565 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 INTs the last 2 weeks. So he's absolutely getting this offense back into normal form. And with that defense, I think they're just going to find success. And also, you got to look at how Chicago does defending the pass. They give up 67.6% pass completion rate to their opponents and 72.5% pass completion rate on the road. That ranks them 28th in the league in that regard. So I think it's going to be a little bit easier here for Cleveland to move the football versus this Bears defense. Granted, a Bears defense that has improved. You said Montez Sweat added into there, has improved that defense drastically. However, I think Cleveland at home is going to be too much for this team. This team is motivated. This team needs wins. And I think with Joey Flacco in that offense is going to stay relatively productive here. And I just trust that Cleveland defense all day long. So give me Cleveland here, minus 2.5. That's a 2-unit play for me. So you see both sides of the coin, both arguments.
Let's go.
Yep. So everybody, all I got to say is hit the like button, get into the chat, join us along. I want to hear your plays, hear your props, hear your totals.
I'm signed in as the Shark accidentally. So if you see me in the chat, it's the odds fellow, not Shark.
All right, so let's get back into some of these other games. 1 p.m. We got another delicious one here. New York Football Giants with Tommy DeVito. Oh, gabagool, chicken cutlets and all, everything else. Coming into this game red hot versus this New Orleans Saints here that, quite frankly, has had its struggles, especially against the ATS. But I'm going to be taking it here. I think it's a strong line here for the New Orleans Saints. Give me New Orleans Saints here. I got minus 5.5 as the play. Let me tell you why. Listen, we know where the Giants are coming from. 3-game winning streak, but who they've done it against. Washington, who cares? New England, who cares? And Green Bay. Green Bay, everybody's as a paper tiger, in my opinion. 5-8 straight up, 5-7-1 ATS in that game. Now, you got New Orleans. They've lost 3 out of the last 4 straight up, but they're off a nice little divisional win versus the worst team in the NFL in the Carolina Panthers, 28-6. We did have that correctly capped. 5-7 straight up, 3-9-1 ATS this season. Now you got to look at the Giants on the road. 2-5 straight up ATS, minus 12-point differential, minus 158 net yard average, plus 1 TO ratio. And that's against teams like the Arizona Cardinals, the San Francisco 49ers, the Miami Dolphins, Buffalo, the Las Vegas Raiders. There we go. Dallas and Washington. When you look at New Orleans at home, they're 3-4 straight up, 1-5 ATS. But they have a plus 1 point differential, minus 27 net yard average, plus 1 turnover ratio. But when I look at them from another perspective, look at them versus non-divisional opponents, I just think the Giants are a worse team. Minus 9 point differential, minus 71 net yard average, 3-6 straight up, 3-5-1 ATS versus non-divisional opponents. But you look at New Orleans on the other side, plus 3 point differential, plus 35 net yard average, plus 1 turnover ratio, 4-5 straight up, 3-7 ATS. The defense for the New York Giants has struggled, especially on the road. They're one of the worst road defenses in the NFL. 431 yards per game given up, 5.4 yards per carry on the ground, 69% pass completion rate given up to opponents, 273 in the passing game. That ranks them 31st in road defense. So this is a team that cannot travel. Their defense does not travel, right? The correlation in the line was kind of alarming to me, okay? You saw last week with the Saints, they were a -6 favorite to the Carolina Panthers. They're the same line with this Giants team, a Giants team that has won 3 straight. I was like, why is the line the same as the Carolina Panthers? The valuation is the same. So I see kind of an identical situation here with the New Orleans Saints. They're just going to blow out this New York Giants team. They're 3-0 straight up in ATS as dogs in their last three. But two of those games were at home, and one was a divisional game versus a Washington team that, quite frankly, they've owned for years. So I think this is a perfect spot to be jumping on New Orleans. New Orleans needs the wins. The Giants really don't. I don't think they have any hope to get into the playoffs, whereas I think New Orleans, with that weak division in the NFC South, still has an opportunity here. So I think they get it done here. Give me New Orleans -5.5 as a 2-unit play. Any thoughts on this game, or should we keep it moving here, Odds?
Don't hate it. The only thing I would say is just that red zone offense for the Saints has been a little bit concerning, but maybe they figured some of that out. I do think on paper they're the better team. So keep it moving. We'll see if the Cutlet magic finally comes to an end there.
Yeah. I don't know if Cutlets travel to
Cutlets
to New Orleans. They may be doing a little bit of gumbo with some jambalaya out there in
all day.
New Orleans today. But let's talk about this next game here. Divisional matchup here. You have the New York Jets coming off an electric win, 30-6 versus the Texans last week. Then you got Miami. Tragic, absolute collapse loss. Getting back to where they're comfortable at home versus a subpar opponent in the Jets. Typically, these lead to blowout. However, Tyreek Hill, questionable ankle injury. Don't know how healthy he's going to be for this game if he does play. I'll pass it to you. You have a look on the total rather than the side.
Yeah, I probably lean Jets, which is disturbing to say the least. But I think the line, and you were talking about a little bit of the correlation here, kind of follow what Vegas does. And I always think that's important. That's happening here on both the total and the side, which is why I kind of lean that way in a close, tight game. I mean, this is not the Jets in prime time or on a holiday, which is good because that's when you get the butt fumble and the Fail Mary or whatever the hell they're calling it against that Dolphins team on Black Friday, right? When they got beat up, that was a -9 line. Now, Dolphins -9 at MetLife, total of 40.5. The Dolphins almost went over it by themselves, winning 34-13. So the game goes over. The Dolphins easily cover. Now we come back to Miami at home, and it's +8, and the total sitting at 36.5, 37. So, yeah, give me the under 37. Now, some of this is weather, right? There's a storm, and we're going to talk about this in the next game too, kind of hitting that southeast coast area. And rain is one thing. It's really wind gusts, and the combination of rain that you want to look for. But I think that, plus the way this defense has kind of rallied for the Jets, they continue to keep them in games. Zach Wilson did look better last week, but again, the passing defense, the overall defense, I think they're third in DVOA right now. They should take advantage of a Miami team that looked a little bit off its game, especially when that Tyreek injury went down, right? They looked really bad the middle parts of that game. It was 13-13 until they kind of scored one touchdown when Tyreek came back in. The offense got clicking, and then they got gifted the second points. And they were briefly covering the game in the fourth quarter with like 4 or 5 minutes to go before they kind of melted down. But with the Jets coming in here, giving up 19.8 points per game, down 17.7 points per game over their last 3 games, which includes that 34 to Miami. In those same spots, opponents' passing yards per game, which is obviously what the Dolphins want to do. The Jets rank second, giving up 167.2, including 128.7 over their last 3 games, and a better average overall on the road. So I think with the weather, with the way the defense has rallied, with the way Zach Wilson looked last week, I think the Jets can keep this close, and I think the only way they can do that is keep it close, keep it tight. So you got to take Tyreek off his game. You hope the weather factors into it, and the Jets can muddy it up a little bit. So under 37, slightly into the Jets, probably a good teaser leg because I think, especially if you can get past that kind of 2 touchdown mark, I think this is going to be, maybe a 7 to 10 point game, 3 to 10 point game. So I think they're in that range. But give me the under 37. I'm letting Vegas do the talking here.
Yeah, I'm aligned with you on this one. I have 36.5. I got it later today, but I still like it because you said it best, right? Line correlation. The total was 40.5 in New York. And now you're going back to Miami, and it's 4 points, 3.5 points lower. So when you look at this, and it's like you actually got to look at why and
it opened lower still. It was I think it opened at like 39.5. So it's not like it opened and just
right. It definitely did steam down.
Yeah.
So it's going in the direction that you're probably looking at it under here. It's like, well, you got to look at what happened that game last time these two teams played. It's like you had 40.5 points. Probably shouldn't have went over. However, you had 2 interception returns, including the Fail Mary, is what you said.
Yep.
Throwing it and not getting the tackle. And, if you had first half, I mean,
The end to that first half was brutal.
I think it killed not only the total, but I think it killed the spread if you had the Jets on that one. So, I mean, you had 2 interception returns in that game, so you had a lot of outliers, some fumbles in range that resulted in a touchdown. I think one was for the Jets as well. So I think you have 21 points that are basically what I would consider toss outliers, not consistent drives. It was just absolute mistakes on both sides of the ball for both teams. But you look at this one, it's low. It's low for a reason. It's telling you a story. You're probably looking at a low situation here, and you got to look at the Miami team. Offensive line's banged up. If you can get pressure on Tua, they're probably going to get sacks. This is a good defense for the Jets. I think they may be able to keep it close, but that line really leads me to believe that you may also see like Miami taking full control of the game and the Jets not scoring as well. I think there is some motivation there for Miami with the collapse of the defense and the decision making in that game. They may want to come out here and blow out a team. But I would probably stay away from the side altogether. That line is weird. 8.5 is always a weird number, especially when you're dealing with the sharpest of sharp NFL. I think the total is probably the better look on here. I'm going to take it as well. I got 36.5, and that's a 2-unit play for me. So, yeah, complete alignment here on the under in Miami and the New York Football Jets. Also, you got to look at this, too. The last time this total was this low, the score was 11-6. So that can give you an indication too, and I think that was
my kind of football. I'll watch that all day.
Yeah, just rock fight football. We may be getting
Army Navy football
in Miami. I wish they were in the triple option. That'd be a nice one. That is kind of an Army Navy type total though. If you're looking at 637. All right, let's get to another game on the board here. We're looking at Atlanta versus Carolina. Going down here in the NFC South. A nice little matchup here. You have an Atlanta team, not the best on the road, and you have a Carolina team that, well, they've only covered twice this year. Two teams, Atlanta kind of fighting for an NFC South title. Atlanta and Carolina just trying to keep their, I guess they don't even have a first round pick. This is going to go to the Bears, but I'll give it to you. You have a look at the total.
Another one. Talk about that weather. Now I'm a weatherman officially. Sam Champion here, ABC News. But Atlanta, 25th ranked offense. Carolina, 31st ranked offense. That's DVOA stats. The defenses are not good either, 24th and 29th respectively. Usually when you see something like that, sometimes I lean to a sloppy over, but I just think you're getting the perfect combination of bad offense, weather here, game scripting that's going to completely play into Atlanta needs this game. Carolina will play hard, but they really just lack these weapons. The Bryce Young thing may be looking like a mistake, whether that's talent and coaching and development, or if that's we should have just taken CJ Stroud. Who knows? But, definitely a team that's in some disarray. But rain, wind, and wind gusts, that's what I was talking about earlier. These wind gusts during this game from about 1 o'clock on are going to be between the 25 to 30 mile per hour range. That's going to make it difficult to kick, difficult to do what these teams want to do, trying to pass the ball, trying to move the ball. I think Atlanta will hopefully control things, and that generally leads to a Desmond Ridder-led offense that is running the ball. They want to run the ball. They want to control the clock. So let's go low here. There's not a ton of time to spend on it. It's really the offenses, the game script, and the weather all playing nicely into then again, following that Vegas, kind of vision. This thing's sitting at 33. That's a low total. When I see totals that low, I like to go lower.
Yeah, when you look at these two teams, I mean, this could be a type of, if you're looking from a side standpoint, and I was trying to get there, but I'm so scared of Carolina, and I'm so scared of Atlanta on the road. I think they're both a toss on this one. This line is kind of the same identical line that they had to deal with when Carolina played Tampa. And of course, Carolina getting the backdoor cover in that game. So you could be seeing a situation like that with Carolina. I don't think they're going to win the game, but they could keep it close here with Atlanta. And I just can't trust that team on the road. It could be a dangerous spot here with Ridder overlooking this Carolina team, especially with the back end of their schedule. But, Carolina, they just even when it feels sharp, it's never sharp. There's no such thing as sharp when you're dealing with Carolina or New England Patriots for that matter. We'll talk about them in a second. But let's get into some of this thing. Of course, they say rain in Carolina. Yes, we know. Sam Champion over there just gave us the weather report. And then no Tyreek Hill, I guess.
It's bad for me for fantasy. Great for my total. Great for the total.
I think I didn't suspect him to play on a short week. He was listed as questionable when I looked at it this morning. I hadn't seen the official injury report to see it. I didn't think he was going to play. He was a decoy at the tail end of the game last week. But let's
But
talk about
even in there as a decoy, he still got that offense. Like just the power of him being on the field. That's good. That's a huge shift. But
yeah, unfortunately, they will never give him an MVP nod because he should be because how he helps teams, not only how he did in Kansas City, and you're seeing it in Miami. It's night and day how that team operates. That's probably why you're looking at a low total on that one as well. Let's look at this other game that hits the board here, and I have a take on this one. It is Houston. It is Tennessee. A lot of divisional rivalries today here on this beautiful Sunday. The Texans losing their quarterback, C.J. Stroud. He's not going to be playing this game. Concussion protocol. No fret. He should be back next week, but he's got to get past this Tennessee team that's coming off the highs of highs, winning on Monday Night Football versus the Miami Dolphins. We talked about that. But I'm going to be taking Houston on this one on the 3.5. I can't resist the number on this one. There's a 2-unit play for me. Let me tell you why here. Houston coming off an embarrassing loss, and I say embarrassing because it was 30-6, minus 212 net yards in that game, +1 turnover ratio. They're 7-6 straight up, 6-7 ATS this season, still in playoff contention. You got Tennessee coming off a big Monday Night Football win, 28-27, +37 net yards, -2 turnover ratio in that game. It's kind of remarkable with the turnovers they had in that game. They also gave a fumble 6. I think it was a pick 6 on that one too. So they had turnover touchdowns and still came up with a victory on this one. 5-8 straight up, 6-7 ATS this season for Tennessee. Now, Tennessee versus divisional opponents, as you know, not so hot. 0-3 ATS this season, -1 point differential, -31 net yard average. Looking at the Houston side of the ball versus divisional opponents, they are 1-2 ATS, +2 point differential, -32 net yard average, +1 turnover ratio. I think the key to this game, in my opinion, is going to be, can you put pressure on the quarterback in Will Levis? If you do, you saw it last week, he makes mistakes. Tennessee is one of the worst offensive lines in the league. They give up an 11.1% sack rate to their opponents, 14.2% sack rate at home, which ranks them 29th in the league in that category. When you look at Houston on this one, not a bad pass rushing team. They're not great, but they're not bad. 7% sack rate this season overall, but they're 8.6% sack rate on the road. So they'll be able to get the quarterback here versus this weak line in Tennessee. Of course, like I said, C.J. Stroud not going to be playing this game. Looks like they're going to be going with Case Keenum. Case Keenum has played in the NFL, has taken reps, has taken starts, and is fully capable of running an offense, and I think he'll be able to do it here in Tennessee. Now, Houston is banged up for sure. A lot of questionable guys, a lot of guys that could be out for this game. But Tennessee is also dealing with a lot of injuries too, especially on the defensive side. I saw 6 guys listed as questionable in the starting lineup, in the starting rotation for the Tennessee defense. So if they're gonna be playing this game on a short week, they're still gonna be banged up. They're not gonna be 100%. Also got to look at Houston on the road as an underdog. They've absolutely killed it. 3-1 ATS this season as an underdog. I think this line to me is an over-exaggeration with not having C.J. Stroud in the lineup. And it's overreaction to the fact that Tennessee beat Miami on the road in Monday Night Football in front of everybody in God's eyes. So I think this is going to be a very highly public play. You just don't take Tennessee as a favorite. It's just so dangerous. And I'd rather take Houston as a dog because they've been successful. Whether or not C.J. Stroud's playing this game, I think the coaching staff will figure out to make adjustments. They've had all week to plan. And I think Houston will get it done here. At least keep it within the number here. So give me Houston +3.5 as a 2-unit play for me.
Yeah, I think my favorite look, because I don't disagree with you, especially at that hook, right? I mean, why should Tennessee ever be favored by 3.5, 4 points? I like the under 2. I'm not on it right now. That's sitting at 38. If DeMeco Ryans and that coaching staff wants to win this game, especially without CJ Stroud and that kind of potent passing attack that they had and they've been developing, they're going to muck things up. And he's a defensive-minded coach, and you know they'll try to get there. And you get pressure on Will Levis, and he's going to struggle. So yeah, I like the under 38. Like the look with the hook.
Yeah, it's just every time I see Vrabel as a dog, I don't care who they're playing. It's just, I mean, I'm not sorry as a favorite. It's not like when he's a dog, he's super motivated. He goes in there and he gets the job done. However, in this situation, I think Houston, will be able to stay within the number. Hopefully, Case Keenum just limit mistakes. Don't throw INTs, please. I have a little bit of coin on that one. So let's go into the next game here on the board. Not necessarily games that we're going to have bets on, but we could give some takes. Tampa Bay versus Green Bay. Okay. Green Bay coming off that Monday Night Football loss. Tampa, their a wishy-washy team all season long. Baker Mayfield's doing what he can. He got a nice little win for himself last week. That was 29-25 versus Atlanta. Back-to-back divisional wins. Now they're going outside the division at Green Bay. Do you have any thoughts on this game, Odds?
I mean, I lean Green Bay. I just think they're the better team. I mean, if it wasn't for that toast up against the Giants, this team would be right in the middle, kind of the playoff race. They're still hanging on to it a little bit, but they'd be in the division matchup, kind of chasing the Vikings and the Lions with a little bit of the skid that the Lions were on. But with that one being out of reach, what they really need to focus on the wild card, and there's a logjam of these teams that are sitting at kind of the 6-7, 7-7 mark. And again, the Packers could have gotten themselves out of that position if not for that stupid loss to Cutlets. So I think the Packers are right there. I typically don't trust Baker. I think he makes a couple drives, a couple throws. If you're watching some of these games, he had a kind of a good drive, I think, late to get Tampa back in that last one. But, top to bottom, I probably lean Packers. This is another one that's sitting with that weird hook. You see so many lines, I think, now that are like 1.5 or 3.5. We just can't get the 2.5s and the 3s anymore. They're either down in that tic-tac zone of 1.5, and these games are flipping back and forth, or they're sticking it at 3.5, 4. This league is so super sharp. So I don't have a great feel for it. Guns picks to my head, which I love to do. I do lean the Packers there, and better top to bottom, but both teams are in the playoff race, so you're going to have both teams playing for something.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at these two opponents, I mean, that you have Green Bay winning 3 out of the last 4. They just had a sleeper there on the road, but they beat Kansas City, they beat Detroit.
They were playing well.
They're playing well. I mean, the Chargers, I guess. Chargers are
right now. We look at that a little differently.
Yeah, we look at that a little differently. However, at that time, it looked like a good win. Of course, they beat the Rams too at home. They're a better team at home altogether, anyways. I just don't know. Listen, plus 4 point differential in their last 4 games, but they have a minus 20 net yard average and a plus 1 turnover ratio. And then you have what's the motivation for Baker? I mean, I can see this staying within the 3. I could say it could come down to the last possession, driving down the field. If Baker has the ball, I probably trust him more than I do Jordan Love. But yeah, this is just one of those games when you see the Green Bay Packers as a favorite, you're just like, I haven't seen that in a while. Is Aaron Rodgers still the quarterback there? So yeah, it's just something that I don't want to spend my hard-earned money on.
I could see a little pace. I know I shared the Jordan Love over look. I could see a little bit pace in this game. I lean over, but we'll see how they hold up at Lambeau. I don't think there's any weather issues there. Obviously a little colder, but
yeah. Jabaka in the chat says he leans Jordan Love over on the passing yards. Yeah, I can see it when you got a team that gives up 264 yards per game passing, 65.3% pass completion rate with the Atlanta Falcons, and you've seen it week after week. They've given up a ton of passing yards, especially on the road. They give up 299 passing yards to their opponents on the road this season, 69.7% pass completion rate. Jordan Love could look like an electric guy today. So I don't hate that look at all. From Jabaka. All right, let's go into another one-off game, and it is my New England Patriots. My New England Patriots sitting here, I think the number 2 pick in the draft right now, behind the Carolina.
Keep losing.
Yeah, so it's Tank City, Tank Central. Looks like Bill Belichick. All the news and the rave is everybody saying that Bill Belichick's just a ticking time clock till the end of the season when they get rid of him and can him. But you have a Kansas City team that, quite frankly, looks lost out there, especially on the offensive side of the ball, losing to the Buffalo Bills last week at home. Is this a rebound spot for Kansas City? You're seeing the line well over a touchdown versus New England Patriots. What are your thoughts on this game, Odds?
I mean, this Kansas City offense has not been right all season. You could probably point to a couple games and a couple quarters, but to put it together for 4 quarters, they just haven't done it. I don't know if that's Kelsey being distracted by one Taylor Swift. We know it's not. That's mainstream media. But the wide receiver situation, the core receiving situation, they have to rely on Kelsey. They have to rely on Pacheco and running backs out of the backfield. If you look at where Mahomes is spreading the ball around, it's to those guys because he doesn't have the wide receiver threat, and a lot of that is drop balls and mistakes, offsides, not offsides. Kadarius Toney has been bad. These guys have been inconsistent. They've had a ton of drops. So, going into New England against a good elite New England defense, especially as of late. Even though New England's been losing these games, it's because of the offensive side of the ball, not the defensive side of the ball. So I think this could be another messy one. I could see Kansas City getting there. Maybe a teaser leg, maybe a money line look, but for the points right now, I actually lean New England. And if this thing gets big enough, especially with the way sometimes Kansas City has come out of the gate and then stalled late in these games or in the second halves, you probably get a live inflated number too. So I think the defense will keep it closer because of the offensive situation. Much like some other teams in the NFL, it's tough to fully back New England on the points because that Kansas City defense is good too. New England might not score, but Zappe looked better last week. You obviously watch it a lot more closely. New England should lose this game. They want to lose this game, but again, I think that elite defense against the Kansas City offense that has not been right all season could be a recipe for disaster against the number.
Yeah, no Pacheco this week. He had surgery, so
that hurts even more.
That's going to hurt them drastically. Looks like they're going to go with Hilaire, or they're going to have to go with Gerald McKinnon. But the wide receiver core is just weak. And teams just know that, so they harness in on Kelsey, and Bill Belichick's going to know that. He's going to make sure that Kelsey doesn't beat them, and he lets the wide receivers beat them on man-to-man coverage. And this New England defense is still playing exceptionally well. They're only giving up under 300 yards to their opponents in their last 4 games after getting absolutely waxed by the Washington football team, or actually, Commanders, 432 yards of total offense. But they've absolutely played well. Great against the run, great against the pass. And I think Bailey Zappi getting into this spot against a good defense, you may see some struggles there as well. I think the Kansas City defense is going to have to carry him in this game. And granted, you're playing a New England offense that isn't that great. Granted, they did put up 303 yards of total offense last week to a decent Pittsburgh Steelers defense on the road. But I don't know if they're going to be able to repeat that. We'll see how it goes. Have won the net yardage battle in the last 4 games as well, the Patriots. And who knows what Bill Belichick's mentality is? Is he just going to say, you know what, fuck this team, I'm ready to go? Or I'm just gonna win and screw up your draft pick? No, I'm not gonna be the coach.
Yeah, it could be a really weird rally spot.
I don't know. Bill Belichick's a weird guy, and
because this is the first game since the news leaked, right?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
This is the first one out the gate when the reporter said that Bill Belichick's probably going to get.
That's
fired.
Gonna be interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting situation there for the Patriots. High line, probably lean towards the Patriots side, but Kansas City off a loss. Even though they've gone through back-to-back losses, you never know when you're going to see. You could see how they performed when they played the Raiders after the loss to Philadelphia. They've lost 3 out of their last 4 games. I didn't realize that with Kansas City. Yeah. Trouble in paradise there,
and like bad, stupid losses.
Yeah, stupid losses. So not unbackable from a Kansas City standpoint. Of course, New England is just unbettable altogether. That's you're playing with Russian roulette there, so to speak. But let's go into some of these later games on the board here. We're going into the 405 slate. San Francisco, divisional game again versus Arizona. Arizona, of course, one of the worst divisional ATS teams in the league. Going against the 49ers team that is just rolling through their competition left and right. I'll pass it to you, odds fellas. What are your thoughts on this game?
Garbage.
Yeah.
No, I really don't have much. I mean, I think it's hard not to back San Francisco. I think the look is the over. If you're going to take it, San Francisco could end up getting there close by themselves. And as they start maybe taking their foot off the gas, it's always tough to take a big line in the NFL, but you'd be surprised how often these sometimes cover. So I think if you're under 2 touchdowns, maybe the Niners are the look. But for me, it's the over with a spread like that. And that number being pretty high, I think that's telling you there is going to be some points. I think San Francisco is going to have their way. It really just comes down to probably a matter of how much you get out of that Arizona offense to get you there on that blend. Arizona's played hard. They stayed in these games. I think they've looked better as of late with Kyler. So that could be a little bit of a spark that here continues in a fun divisional matchup. But it's tough to take Arizona in the points. We talked about some of these bad teams, bad rosters, at least in this place. In this case, it's better quarterback play. So I think that, to me, lends itself a little bit more to that over.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the last time these two teams met, it was 14.5. I remember taking them on that game. Of course, Arizona drove down, got to the red zone, couldn't convert the touchdown to get the backdoor cover. Then you're seeing this line here sitting out -12 currently on the books. It's just as a divisional game, you just don't take Arizona. It's like if there's a situation you want to take a San Francisco or pass. However, you could get bit by the backdoor snake, like they did versus Atlanta a few weeks ago. Actually, I think they got bit with Seattle as well. Yeah, these double-digit favorites with San Francisco, it's getting tough now. They're getting sharp. All right, so it could be a coin toss type of situation there. I don't want to be caught on the back end of this one. Probably the look on this one is maybe San Francisco on the first half.
Right.
Probably a better
They've been
look on
able to
this
get
one.
out early.
They're able to get out early. If you look at the last time these two teams met, it was 21-10 in that situation when they were favored. And then if you look at some of these other double-digit ones when they played Seattle, and I'll pull that one up here in a second. They were up 14-10 in that game. So that'd probably be the look on this one is probably look for San Francisco to jump out the gate, maybe take their foot off the gas pedal. But I'm not taking it officially.
And I think even the over is super sharp. I mean, look at that first game; it was 51 points on a 43.5, 43 line. So it's ticked up a lot because they're trying to find that average and that point. But that probably also means it's super sharp. I tend to like when the games in that line are moving in the opposite direction, and here they're moving up with it because it's probably going to be right around that 48-49 mark. So another look if you don't like San Francisco first half or the full game, just pre-flop. You could split it. Sometimes I like to do a half unit on the pre-flop and then look a little bit live with that other half unit or unit just to kind of balance some things out because you could get a slow start. You get a slow start and that thing starts ticking back down towards the 43-45, then that over becomes maybe a very good look. So, keep some things in mind. There's so many different strategies with these things.
Yeah, a little fun fact. I'm just looking at the numbers here. This is the fourth time the number has been over 45 or more with San Francisco games. 3-0 to the over so far. So that's probably the look on that one too. Yeah, I don't.
Runs is always out. I had to share that one for you.
Yeah. There you go. So sun's out. All right, now we got to get some of these other nitty-gritty games down the board. Of course, we have a play for you as the odds fellow does have an official on this one. Washington Commanders. They need to go back to the Redskins so I don't keep screwing up the damn mascot on this one when I talk about them. LA Rams
football team.
Going home, sitting here as a 6.5 point favorite, 4:05 p.m. Eastern start. I'll pass it to you, odds fellow. You have a look on the side.
Yeah, we'll keep it moving quick. It's Rams, baby. Rams, especially if it's under a touchdown. I just think this Washington team is moving in the complete wrong direction. I'm a big fan of the Ringer Podcast Network. And, my guy, Cousin Sal and Bill Simmons, they refer to what used to be Riverboat Ron as Rowboat Ron now because I think he's just a dead man walking. No announcements, no reports there. So it's not like the Bill Belichick situation. But I don't know how Ron Rivera gets his job. They did fire the D coordinator. That doesn't matter. Rivera took that spot over, and this team just looks terrible. 29-26 loss to Seattle, 31-19 loss to Tommy Cutlets, 45-10 loss to Dallas, 45-15 loss to Miami. Obviously, two of those teams are very highly rated in terms of the offense, being Dallas and Miami. But these other two are worse than the Rams, and the Rams offense continues to trend up. They've actually been sneaky good, especially when fully healthy. And fun fact here, the last 3 weeks, which I'll get into the scoring, is the first time all season they've had quarterback 1, running back 1, and wide receiver 1. They've hit on some rookies, including the running back and wide receiver 2. But running back 1, wide receiver 1, and quarterback 1 from a pure depth chart standpoint, the last 3 weeks is the only time those three players have played together. 37-14 win at Arizona. That's the 31st ranked defense. 37-31 loss at Baltimore. That's the second ranked defense. And 36-19 win. 37-31 loss. Sorry, they obviously lost in overtime in that Baltimore game, but put up points. 36-19 win at Cleveland, the first defense. This team is scoring. This team is winning. And here you get the Washington Commanders, a defense that's reeling, a team that's reeling. Give me the 6.5. It's super public, super square. This offense is going to be clicking. So another look too, if you don't love it, you could obviously tease down and you're right around that pick 'em line. Or the team totals hovering at like 27.5, 28.5, which is not a terrible look. Just don't want to get burned. Some of those are heavily juiced. So for me, it's -6.5. The live bet Ram. This is could be a good strategy too. Does Washington come out a little bit more motivated and the Rams start slow? But the cap here for me is that offense, that healthy offense. They're going to get clicking.
Yeah, you're looking at a coach is probably looking at packing his bags at the end of the season, right? So with the Rams winning 3 out of the last 4 games, of course, uh, 2 divisional opponents in that one, and they played a really good game versus Baltimore, taking them to overtime on the road, tough spot to play. It was piss poor raining, and they almost got it done. Minus 39 net yard average, but both teams were going back and forth in that game. Uh, they're just playing better. I mean, 4 straight losses here from the Washington Commanders, but they have a minus 20 point differential, so they're getting smoked in these games. And of course, that was against Seattle, New York Giants, Dallas, and Miami.
Bad.
Bad. So I think they're going to be going on the road here. I think the only spot to look at here is the Rams. Rams are playing a little bit more inspired football, and they have more to play for than Washington does at this point. So. I think when you have a coach that is already on the chopping block, typically what happens is it's more than just the owner not wanting to deal with the coach because of the performance. I think the locker room is in disarray as well, and just showing in the last 4 weeks that they just don't want to play for Ron Rivera. And I don't even think they like Bieniemy as well. I think that there's some problems and some friction there as far as the players, the offensive players that have been talking about him. I don't think he's a good coach at all. Hearing everything that's coming out of Washington, but we'll see in that game. I don't hate the take. I think the only take on that one is taking the Rams. Moving on to the game of the week, an absolute banger here at 425. It seems like Buffalo is in the 425 spot the past 3 weeks. You have Dallas coming off the win of all wins, beating their divisional rival in the Philadelphia Eagles, smoking them 33-13, plus 70 net yards, plus 2 turnover ratio. But I'm going to be going with Buffalo on this one. I'm going to be taking them on the money line here. Minus 126 is the line that I got. It's available right now. So go grab that line here. Listen, you have the Buffalo team sitting as a favorite versus Dallas. I thought Dallas was good. Well, I think Buffalo is playing a little bit more inspired football right now and playing a tougher schedule. That is what now you look at Buffalo coming off a big win last week, right? Kansas City last week, 20-17, minus 19 net yards, plus 1 turnover ratio. When I say inspired ball, they've been playing great as of late. Last 4 games, plus 6 point differential, plus 104 net yard average, plus 1 turnover ratio. And they played some respectable opponents along the way. Denver, the Jets, Philly, KC. Not a bad cluster of games there. A little bit of the weak, a little bit of the strong. Now you look at Dallas, what they've dominated as of late with a plus 21 point differential, plus 64 net yard average, plus 2 turnover ratio in the last 4 games. They've done it versus the weakest of all weaker competition. Last 5 games, Giants, Carolina, Washington, Seattle, and of course, Philly. But Philly, revenge spot, line. It was those teams always split home and home. That's what happens when these two teams play each other. Plus, you have a Philly team that has just been playing regressing football as of late, and Dallas took advantage of it at home. Dallas 3-0 ATS versus non-conference opponents this season, but 2 of those games are versus sub 500 teams in New England and the Jets when they play at home in those spots. I think they came off losses on both of those. So it was you don't fade Dallas off a loss ever. And then versus the weakest of all week in the Chargers, which we know now is not an impressive win there on Monday night. But when you look at Buffalo's, this is their 4th game versus the NFC East. This will be the 3rd with Dallas. They beat Washington 37-3 with a plus 156 net yard average and plus 4 turnover ratio, dominating that game. Now they played the New York Football Giants 14-9, minus 20 net yard average, minus 2 turnover ratio in that game. Still got the W in prime time. However, that game was coming off the London game. They were traveling back, and usually those teams coming off a London game with the time zones and everything, they never perform well in the week after. And then you got, of course, Philly losing that game 37-34. Most of us got the cover. Some of us got the push. Plus 127 net yard average, plus 1 turnover ratio. Should have won that game. Missed a wide open receiver for the touchdown to get the W. Should have been Buffalo, but it wasn't because of that mistake. But when you look at Dallas on the road this season, outside of the division, you're looking at Arizona losing that game 28-16. You have the 49ers losing that game 42-10, and then the other ones were subpar opponents. 3-3 straight up and ATS on the road this season, and their only covers were against the Giants, Chargers, and Carolina. So when you have to play a team a step up in class, it's a different story here for Dallas. They have to go on the road to Buffalo. Buffalo in December. Last time I checked, it gets pretty cold there. I think Buffalo is playing a little bit more inspired. They have more to play for in this one. They're playing for their playoff lives. The division is now wide open there after Miami's loss last week. I think they're going to get it done here, Buffalo. And you're just picking a winner in this spot. There's a reason why Buffalo's favored, and it's trying to trap you to take Dallas, in my opinion. So I'm going to be taking Buffalo here, money line -126. That's a 2-unit banger for me.
All things will fall into place for Buffalo if the Dolphins here without Tyreek get tripped up too. So heavy motivated spot. I mean, look, the Bills should have won some of those other games that they were also favored in. So you've seen them function in this environment and still get tripped up a little bit. That would be the only downside. They have some injuries on the defensive side of ball, but you got Dallas at an all-time high the last few years. The problem for me as a fan, just putting that kind of fan hat on, if they do lose this game, which on paper they should, based on these odds, right, and the spot, to me that just says it's the same old Dallas Cowboys. So it's going to be really interesting to kind of sit back and enjoy this one. I hope it's close. I hope it's going to be fun. But I think Buffalo is the sharp look. When you see a team like this, these two teams coming in, and that line is telling you that story right off the bat. So tough not to back them. I do think you'll get points in this game too. I would lean to the over a little bit. Dallas in a teaser is another look I've heard a lot of people talking about too. Jabaka just shared that one. You can get up over that touchdown, but if you're going to bet it, I think the money line with the Bills is the way to go, especially in that -20 to -130 range. So don't hate it. Don't hate it.
Yeah. Speaking of another good primetime game here, we'll touch
Late night
a little bit on this one. Baltimore, Jacksonville. We talked about this off air. Trying to figure out the direction on this one. We know the Shark took this on a +3.5. He's probably got a breakdown for you on that one. This is gonna be a tough spot here in Sunday night football. Baltimore versus Jacksonville. Odds. What are your thoughts?
I lean and probably will get myself down on this under. These are two good defenses from a DVOA standpoint. I think Jacksonville is sitting at 8th, and you have Baltimore held on to that number 2 spot. Knowing where they need to make up for things. I don't think Trevor Lawrence and that Jacksonville offense is completely right and healthy yet. So I think you get another primetime under here. That thing's sitting, pretty high right now. So that's where I lean on the side. I'm pretty torn. So I'm interested to see what you have to say. I mean, it's tough for me not to back Baltimore, but I do think Jacksonville's probably in a little bit of a buy low spot, coming off that loss. And again, maybe Lawrence getting a little bit more, healthy. Here, that could matter because they did get beat up in that last game.
Yeah, I mean, back to back losing the net yardage, Cincinnati and Cleveland. Now you got to go against another AFC North team in Baltimore, and you got to take them on.
And another good defense.
But they play competitive against both of these teams. I mean, they lost in OT versus Cincinnati.
And that was the injury. So I kind of throw that one out a little bit because I think all the momentum Cincinnati was on Jacksonville's side until he stepped on a right guard.
Right. Yes, they had all the momentum in that game, and of course, they played against Cleveland last week. But still, Trevor Lawrence, who knows? He didn't have the mobility that he should have had in that game. Kind of playing with that high ankle sprain. He's going to have to play with it on here in Sunday Night Football. I don't know what the health of that is. If he can loosen that up, you are able to walk and stuff on it, and you tape it up right. But you take one bad hit on it, it could ruin the rest of your game. I think this is going to be a tough spot here for Baltimore. I think the +3.5 is probably the look on this one. You're getting a buy spot here for the Jacksonville Jaguars that kind of desperately need this game. Granted, Baltimore is in a good spot right now. They're probably sitting as the 1 seed in the AFC to get that spot. But would I consider this a game that they need? No, I don't, because they have a good look ahead spot here. They have to go on the road to go play San Francisco next week. So I don't know where they're thinking. Are they overlooking this Jacksonville team, knowing that they really haven't played exceptional football as of late? I just think Jacksonville will, at the very least, keep this thing competitive, keep it close. And they, like you saw with Baltimore last week, they are susceptible of giving up points and keeping games close
And
versus
late, and they
lackluster
do it late.
opponents.
Yeah.
So you may be seeing one of those spots coming off that nice overtime win, highs of highs. Very big sandwich spot, in my opinion. I'm probably going to be leaning towards the Jacksonville side, and it's probably going to be a play for me today. But I want to make sure I get the right line, see if I can find a 3.5. I wish that was still out there. I don't think it is, but still, +3 would be a nice one here. Maybe a little sprinkle on the money line. That would be my take on that one. Not official yet, but could be official before kickoff tonight. But that's going to do it here for all the plays that we gave. And I see 44 of you beautiful bastards watching us live here on YouTube. What I need you to do is please hit the like button. And please, if you're not subscribed, please subscribe to the Sharky Warriors Nation channel and hit the notification button. Listen, we do NFL content in here every Sunday morning. And of course, we do college football. We're doing bowl season week 2 this week and probably doing that on Thursday night. And of course, we'll be talking the Thursday night football game as well. So please like and subscribe to the channel. That's the only support that you can give us. Make sure you keep us in the algorithm so this show can go through the rafters here on this Saturday. Want to make sure I shout out everybody in the chat. We have Free Mind, Jerbaka, Clint. We got you, buddy. All the people that have joined us on YouTube. I see you too. Dylan K joining us here. And you guys are all the best. Love you all. Make sure you always support us, always watch this show. And those are the picks to recap for you. The odds fellow is going to be bringing the New York Jets, Miami under 37, Atlanta, Carolina under 33, the Rams -6.5, and he has Chicago +3.5. Is that correct? +3.
+3. I got stuck with the +3.
Yeah, +3. And I'm on the opposite side on that one. I got Cleveland here at -2.5. I got the Buffalo Bills minus money line -126. I got Houston +3.5, 2-unit banger. I'm also liking the under here, aligned with the odds fellow at I got 36.5. And of course, I'm going to be taking New Orleans here -5.5. All 2-unit plays for me. That's your 5-pack. And of course, we hit the monster one yesterday with the Detroit Lions. Missed out on the Steelers. So we're still cooking here with Absolute Fire. I think I'm hitting about 57, 58% in the NFL currently. And odds fellas probably cooking as well. But that's going to do it here for the show. Appreciate all you guys for joining us. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. We'll be back here next week with more bangers for you. Let's have ourselves a Saturday. Let's crush the board. And as always, let's keep dancing. Bang!